Hey, what's up, guys? It's Apollo Uchiha here, back with the next part of What If Naruto Had a Dinosaur as a Pet. And before continuing this part, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And without further ado, let's continue with our story. Tuition year was mostly review. They went over the Henji, clone, and Kawurami. Tarko was having difficulty henging into a human form perfectly. Then they tried Naruto's Oriki no Jutsu, and it somehow worked, giving Tarako a basis for Henji. She did it perfectly the next time in class, turning into a perfect replica of Shino. Ruka was proud of his only non-human student. Briefly, he wondered if he could pass Tarako and use that to pass Naruto as well. The Hokage had said that unfortunately Tarako could not be counted as anything more than a ninja animal. A pity, really she was smarter than most of the class and could hold her own perfectly well against him and Mizuki altogether. Although that could be attributed to the fact that most taijutsu styles were designed to fight humans, not velociraptors. Hokage-sama, Iruka said, if I may request. It involves Tarako? The Hokage asked, hiding a smile. Iruka chuckled, yes. I was wondering if we could average Tarako and Naruto's results to give a final report. I still haven't found a fix to the clone problem, but Tarako can do it perfectly. As with everything else, as a couple of civilian parents have come to complain to me. The Hokage agreed, a slight smile at the reminder. Ruka chuckled. Yes, she would be top of the class if she was an actual student. I will allow it. If just to ensure Naruto-kun passes, even with this hated status because of the furball. Ruka bowed his head. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Of course, Ruka-kun. If he didn't graduate, I would have had to figure out some other way to give this to him. The Hokage pulled out a picture, handing it to Iruka. Another shinobi mission to the outside, but I do not believe this is the same kind of egg, as the shinobi of the research division reported that the egg was healthiest when in a fire. In a fire? Iruka repeated. Well, if this creature turns out to be as intelligent as Tarako, perhaps placing him with Kakashi is a good idea, giving him the kick in the back and he needs. The Hokage chuckled. Perhaps he is one of the most powerful ninjas, and perhaps close to the sanest elite jonin we have. Closest to the sanest, Iruka agreed, although Maito Guy isn't exactly the best comparison. The Hokage chuckled. I suppose not. Dismissed. Iruka bowed his head and walked out. When it became clear Tarako was large enough she couldn't just fit on a desk, Iruka had managed to con his students into a project that meant at least a quarter of them pick up a hobby of woodworking. The assignment, make a desk for Tarako. Team had been chosen carefully, Sasuke immediately claiming Naruto and Shino, with Hinata claiming their fourth spot. The fangirls had to be at best least slightest careful to have someone that Tarako didn't mind in their group, if only so she wouldn't dismiss the desk out of the fact she just didn't like the creators. Naruto group won in the end, a lot in part to the fact that she liked all of the members of the group and they had basically 24/7 access to her, while the others could only test their designs in class. The result, something that had adjustable legs, the adapt for when she got bigger. If it had hooks so it could be attached to one of the desks that were already there so it could be used after Tarko was out of the academy. It was just high enough for her to write, and since it was separate she could stand on it and not to worry too much about hitting people with her tail. It also had the extra bonus that it was so far apart she didn't need a privacy screen during the test. Naruto didn't moderate okay, certainly not the best, but he did pass this segment. Tarko, as usual, had the highest grade possible. Sasuke and Sakura matched her, of course, but well, it was a test. They could only do so much. Taijutsu. Naruto was okay, once again not the dead last he'd been before Tarako had, but not the top. Tarako had a bit harder of time and went up against Mizuki, who was clearly going a bit too fast for a normal academy student, but as she lasted long enough, Ruka marked her down with top marks. At this point she was on the roster. Weapons, Naruto had certainly improved his aim and scored as one of the highest in the class. Tarko admitted that she was making him practice trying to hit her dull kunai like the ones he would have been using bounced off her scales, so she was never harmed. After trying to hit her, stationary targets were a breeze. Toroko used her floating kunai trick and consistently landed in the center, earning her the top spot right next to Sasuke, who also hit all the centers, and Naruto, who done the same. Basically, wasn't conditioning was basically base conditioning wasn't really a segment that counted in towards their scores, but they had it anyway. Toriko topped in speed, and Naruto again topped in stamina. Sasuke tied with Naruto for strength. Jutsu was the final test. It had been a bit of a struggle for Toriko to be able to perform the jutsu, but she could now, and seamlessly, as her arms and hands were not conductive towards hand signs, perform jutsus. Alright, Toriko, your turn, Sasuke said, flopping down in his seat with a headband tied around his neck. Toriko made the chirpy noise that come to the conclusion meant alright and walked out of the room. There were two other teachers once who didn't really know Toriko aside from Iruka, highly amusing ranting about how a dinosaur was smarter than most, if not all of his class. They were rather surprised when Toriko opened the door, walked in, and closed it behind her. She then proceeded to make a clone Hanji into a perfect copy of Naruto and substitute with the convenient placed log. The teachers aside from Iruka and Mizuki blinked at her in surprise. Iruka offered her a headband and she took it gently in her mouth, trying to not dent the metal or slice through the fabric. The class didn't look at all surprised when she waltzed back in with the headband held gently in her teeth. Naruto helpfully tied it around her neck. She nudged him, tapping that it was his turn. Naruto came in slightly nervously, but he could do it. He and Toriko had practiced a lot for this. He hinged it into a perfect copy of Toriko, Iruka giving a proud smile that he hadn't done the Oriki no Jutsu. He could do the substitution fine, swapping with the log, but his clone came out fatted. Iruka smiled at him, handing him a headband. Congratulations, you pass. Even with your low clone score, your other scores, and the fact that Hokage-sama allowed me to average your lower scores with Toriko's, you passed right about in the middle of the class. Congratulations, Naruto. I'll see you after school for ramen. Okay? Naruto shouted in joy, hugged Iruka, and ran out. Iruka took that as a yes and got up to call the next student in. The Hokage met them at Ichiraku's, and Naruto happily attacked him with a hug and started babbling about how he passed. Toriko tapped that she passed too, and Tenoichi happily set her usual plate of meat scraps in front of her. First bowl on the house to celebrate your graduation, Naruto, Tenoichi said, grinning as he handed a bowl of ramen to Naruto. Naruto grinned back at him, and Tenoichi just smiled back and moved to make more ramen. Naruto, as you did so well, hatching and raising Toriko. There's another egg supposed to hatch tonight. That is, the research division has requested you to look over. It's unlikely that the egg is the same species as Toriko, as it is the healthiest in fire. So it's fireproof? Naruto asked. The Hokage nodded. Most likely. Naruto swallowed the last of his bowls. Do we have time for more ramen, or do we have to go now? The Hokage smiled. An Anbu will alert me when we need to go. We have some time. Naruto cheered and Iruka ordered his own bowl of ramen. If they had time, they were going to eat. After another 4 bowls of ramen for Naruto and Toriko, having finished of all of the scripts Tenoichi and Ayame didn't want, Ananbu leapt down to tell the Hokage that it was time. Alright, Naruto-kun, let's go, the Hokage said, placing down money for his meal and half of Naruto's, Iruka filling in the other half. The research division room with the egg in it was very hot, as they were fire burning 24/7. They kept the windows open as much as they could, but then it was cold and hot, and the entire room was just a mess of temperature. The egg had been removed from the fire and was sitting on a table. Metal, but covered with the fire-resistant fabric. Naruto and Toriko circled the eggs curiously, and Naruto finally found a place that was cracking. The egg was jet black, run through with swirls of silver, a piece of crack off, staring Naruto in the eye. Naruto and the creature blinked at each other for a bit, then the rest of the eggshell fell away, showing a creature that sort of resembled Toriko, but instead of smaller arms, it had feathered wings. A crest of feathers around its head rose as it shook itself, then started rubbing against Naruto's offered hand. It was jet black, but had similar silver spirals as its egg. The feathers were stripped silver at the tips. Upon seeing the sharp teeth in the creature's mouth, I'm pretty sure this one's a meat eater too. Is there some meat here nearby? Now, our research division shinobi thoughtfully handed him some, and he gave it to the tiny creature. Iruka sensei, you knew what Tarko was, so you know what this one is? Naruto asked, glancing at his sensei. Iruka tilted his head. I was an avid reader as a kid, and the closest thing I can think of is a dragon, but I don't think and don't remember dragons having feathered wings. The Hokage shook his head. A dragon then. He gently picked the dragon up, quickly checking its gender. I believe it's a female. Naruto glanced around, spotting the fireplace. Danromi. Cute name. Iruka said approvingly. Naruto beamed at him. Well, I'll leave it to you, Naruto. The Hokage said, beginning to walk away. I have a son and grandson waiting for me. See ya, GD. Naruto shouted after him, waving. Iruka sighed, glancing at the clock. You should get home, Naruto. It's getting kind of late, and we have team assignments tomorrow. You don't want to be late for that, do you? Naruto chuckled. Kinda hard to be late when Tarko will drag me out of the room by my clothing, uncaring if I'm fully dressed or not. Iruka chuckled. Right? Well, still, you need to sleep. Naruto nodded. Of course, Iruka-sensei. Come on, Danromi, Tarko, let's go home. Danromi chirped, leaping onto him and sitting down on his head. I can introduce you to Tanoichi and Ayame tomorrow, he told the small dragon. They'll be a bit startled at first, but they'll manage. Danromi chirped, tiny claws digging into his hair. Tarko chirped at Danromi, and the dragon chirped back, the two beginning what was probably a conversation. Are you going to teach her Morse code? Hyuka asked, glancing at Danromi. Naruto nodded, carefully not to dislodge Danromi. Might as well. Not sure if she'll be able to write though. Well, unless you want her to complete paperwork with you, she won't need to. You aren't at the academy anymore. Naruto hummed in agreement. Right. Well, it could be useful. You never know. Iruka nodded in agreement. See you tomorrow, Naruto. See you tomorrow, Sensei. Danromi woke Naruto up the next morning by breathing fire 2 inches away from his face. It was certainly an interesting awakening, and one that made Naruto decide that if Sasuke was on his team, Sasuke might just commandeered Danromi on the principle that she could already breathe fire and she was using a jutsu. Danromi, we can't breathe fire in the apartment, Naruto said, exasperately. You might burn the plants. Taroko, you can speak to her. Can you translate that? Taroko nodded, chirping to Danromi for a couple of seconds. Danromi nodded, ducking her head. She flapped up to bump Naruto's cheek with her nose in apology. Naruto caught her as she was falling down and settled her on his shoulder. It's alright, just don't do it next time, okay? Tarko translated that and Danromi bumped his head with her own again. Naruto padded into the kitchen, pulling out the leftovers from the last time the Nara left them go hunting. The Nara let them hunt the deer in their forest as long as they brought back some for the clan as well. Saved them the trouble of hunting down the deer themselves and saved them buttering the meat. Tarko was quite good at it when she put her mind on it. After she learned how, he tossed full strips to Tarko, feeding smaller pieces to Danromi. And when they were fed, he moved on to his own breakfast, which was cereal as usual. Danromi got a lot of attention from his classmates as she was a new creature. She liked Tarko, liked Sasuke and Shino, hated the fangirls and didn't mind most of the people. She really liked Hinata, however, and immediately settled into the girl's dark purple hair. Hinata turned very red and looked like she was going to faint when that resulted in Naruto sitting next to her. Alright, Ruka said as he came in. Tarko, who'd been just waiting for the signal, just bit Shikamaru's shoulder gently, waking him up. Ruka tossed a mouse her way and she snapped it up. Now, team assignments. Naruto waited patiently for his name to be called, absent-mindedly fingering the headband on his forehead. Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, Tarko, Danromi, you're on the team with Naruto. Naruto and Sasuke crowned, and while Sakura cheered that she had Sasuke on her team. Team 8, Hinata Yuga, Shino Aburame, Kiba and Izuka. Hinata blushed again, Shino adjusted his glasses and Kiba didn't seem to care but was deep in quiet conversation with Akamaru. And finally, Team 10, Choji Akamichi, Shikamaru Nara and Ino Yamanaka. Ino ground and the two boys called just shrugged. 3 hours later, and Naruto, Taruko and Danromi had relocated to the floor and were taking a nap in a seat little pile. Sasuke had just put his head down and Sakura was chatting her head off to Sasuke. Their teacher, a silver-haired jonin, came in and stared at the pile of two reptiles and a cannon. Then his other two Ganins, one looking to be asleep at the desk and the other talking. First impression of you three, you're lazy? Tarko raised her head and looked at him, then bared her teeth at him and nudged Naruto, who woke up with a yawn, waking up Danromi in the process. Oh, is our teacher finally here? Took him long enough. Tarko tapped out a patron. Hunt? Tomorrow. Naruto agreed. If he isn't there on time. Kakashi gave no indication that he understood what Tarko had asked, and just continued. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Before disappearing, he said. Tarko stood up and Naruto went over to poke Sasuke awake. The three Genins and the two reptiles made their way up to the roof where their teacher was waiting. So, introduce yourselves. Kakashi suggested, eyes smiling at them. Tarko decided she'd go first. I am Tarko. I enjoy hunting. I like the mice Iruka-sensei kept in his desk and raw meat in general. I hate vegetables and fangirls. Naruto, I like hunting with Tarko. And I'm taking care of my plants. I like ramen, Tarko, and my new friend Danromi. I agreed with Tarko and don't like vegetables or fangirls. Sakura blushed when she realized it was her turn. Tarko rolled her eyes as Sakura stammered out something that was incoherently and probably about Sasuke, and that she disliked Naruto and Tarko. She got a nice view of Tarko's teeth for that one. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like fire, dislike fangirls, and enjoy training. Nice to meet you, Kakashi said, eyes smiling at them. And you, Sensei? Naruto asked. Why don't you introduce yourself? Kakashi thought about that. Sure, my name is Kakashi Harake. I like a lot of things. Tarko interrupted him by tapping. He smells like 8 different dogs, and eggplant and miso. Kakashi gave her a flat look and continued. My dislikings are some things, and I enjoy is none of your business. Again, he was interrupted by Tarko. Remember his smell. He always at the memorial stone. Kakashi leveled Tarko with a long stare. The raptor smirked at him. Whatever the case, meet me at the training ground 7 tomorrow at 5 or for our first mission, a survival exercise. There is a 66 rate of failure in that one. And don't eat breakfast or you'll throw up. With that, he disappeared in a sunshine. Tarko snorted, shaking herself. Well, I'm eating breakfast. It's not like he can make me throw up anyway. Naruto hummed in agreement. Maybe. Yeah, you're right. Maybe just a small snack for me. Small enough I won't throw up. Big enough I am not going to die of starvation. They wandered off, leaving Sakura and Sasuke there. Sasuke debated between Sakura and Naruto and chose walking off towards his compound. They met up in the morning at the training ground. Sasuke had arrived first, plopping down with a bag in his lap. Naruto plopped down next to him. Tarko standing next to him. Danromi was wrapped around his neck and looked to be sleeping. Good morning, Tarko tapped. Sasuke nodded his head. Good morning, Tarko. Naruto yawned, shifting so he was leaning against one of the bridge posts. Morning, Sasuke. What you got there? Sasuke held the bag protectively. Tomatoes, and you can't have any. Naruto snorted, sliding to the ground. I don't want them. In another second, he was sleeping. Sasuke snorted, settling down to meditate. Tarko settled down with her head in Naruto's lap. Sasuke was soon asleep, though not having gotten much sleep. Tarko also slept, but lightly, paying attention to her surroundings. Sakura arrived quietly, also holding a bag. She noted that the sleeping positions of her new team and settled off to the side, snacking on the crackers in her bag and reading a book. 2 hours later, Tarko left the rest of the team where they had fallen asleep and went to hunt down Kakashi. She tracked him at the memorial stone, standing at the entrance of the place and watching him. She knew he could sense her there. She hadn't exactly been sneaky as she approached. Tarko? Kakashi said, finally not bothering to look at her. Kakashi, she tapped. Coming? I am not waiting another hour for you to show up. And your teammates? Kakashi asked, amusement coloring his tone. Are sleeping, Tarko admitted. But the fact remains, you are already 2 hours late. I will come look for you earlier next time. If you want more time with your memorial stone, wake up earlier. You'll have to find me. I am not so predictable, Kakashi warned. Whatever, just give us our test already. Tarko tapped, staring at him until he relented and stood up and standing up and followed her back to the training ground. Naruto appeared to have woken up and was currently poking Sasuke in hopes of wanting to waking him up. Tarko chirped loudly in greeting. Sasuke and Naruto both jumped about a foot in the air. Sakura startled so badly she dropped her book. Good morning, my cute little students, Kashi said, eyes smiling at them. Tarko rolled her eyes and stood next to Naruto, tail swinging ever so slightly. Naruto glared at Kakashi. You're late! Would have been later, Tarko replied, wrinkling her snort at Kakashi. Kakashi didn't reply, just held up two balls of bells, which seemed to be bells, placing an alarm clock on the nearest stump. Get one of these bells from me, and by the time it ends in your pass, and if not, you'll fail, and be sent back to academy. Tarko narrowed her eyes, already planning to smash the clock. It would give them more time, if not anything else. Ready? Kakashi asked, attaching two bells to his waist. Tarko shifted so her tail was across Naruto's chest, holding him back from attacking Kakashi until it was time. Danromi abandoned Sasuke's duck hair where she perched at some time earlier and pressed onto Tarko's back instead, settling down and wriggling her wings under two of the straps on Tarko's harness. Conveniently, this also gave her perfect access to the pouch with the jerky in them. Begin, Kakashi said, eyes smiling like he expected some to rush forward and attack him, which no one did. Kakashi opened his eye to find that everyone had disappeared. Tarko could easily find Sasuke and Sakura, not only but tracing their scents, but she could see them as well. They weren't the most well hidden. Sasuke was up in the tree over there to Kakashi's left, and Sakura was on the ground over the bushes. By the glint in Kakashi's eyes, she figured they'd be spotted. She knew where Naruto was, couldn't really see him though. He wasn't trying to keep in the vision range of Kakashi, instead relying on his sharp senses of smell and hearing, which was probably a good idea. Keep Kakashi guessing. She was in fact not hidden very well, but her natural camouflage did a lot, breaking up her shape and making her more difficult to find by shape recognition. Also, she was trying to keep an eye on the other two people in his team. Iruka had told them that Genin teams were made up of 4 people, 3 Ganins and 1 Jonin sensei. Either Kakashi wanted them to work together to futilely try for the belts, or he actually wanted them, the 2 of them actually, to get the belts and the third one to fail. If that was the option, he'd probably have to pick up a Genin that had lost their team, or they wait for the next year for the graduation class and select one for them. The second 2 were unlikely, given the amount of effort it would require. Kakashi didn't seem like the type that wanted to go to any extra effort. Dang, she'd probably have to teach herself and Naruto, given Kakashi didn't seem like he'd teach them at all. Maybe they could trade him in for another teacher later, one that could probably and actually teach them something. But that would have to wait for later. For now, she had to actually collect everyone else and explain to them. Either they'd believe her or they wouldn't. Danromi, He doesn't seem the type to go through extra work, right? Tarko barked quietly to her companion. Not really, Danromi replied. Seems pretty lazy to me. Tarko nodded to herself. Second opinion gotten, even if from a day-old hatchling. Now time to find, well, get to the others. She knew where they were. It was to getting them that was the problem. As Kakashi was off heading towards Sakura, it looked like. With Kakashi gone from the clearing, Tarko raced out of cover, crossing the field in a matter of seconds and plunging back into the underground. She would explain to Sakura after her backend was thoroughly kicked by Kakashi. Tarko paused when she came across the unconscious Sakura, a sniff of the air later, and nope, she wasn't bleeding. So why was she unconscious? It didn't look like she had been forcefully knocked out. The way she was lying didn't suggest that. So what happened? Tarko nudged Sakura with her snort, but the girl didn't stir. Danromi, stay here and keep an eye on her. I'll go after Sasuke. You can find me again, right? Danromi hopped off of Tarko's back. Yeah, you're easy to find among the tail-pale things. Humans? Tarko reminded. Danromo wrinkled her snort. Whatever. Tarko rolled her eyes and ran off into the undergrowth again, tracking Kakashi's scent to where he was fighting Sasuke. Tarko watched as Sasuke got a few good hits in before darting out and making a grab of the belts with her teeth. Kakashi turned into a log and got away, Tarko's jaws snapping shut into the air. Tarko stopped digging her claws into the ground to stop the momentum. She shook herself, turning to Sasuke. Come on, I know what she's doing. Listen, and we'll pass this test, and don't we all fail. Sasuke narrowed his eyes at her, but nodded, following her back to the undergrowth. Tarko poked Sakura with one of her claws this time. Still out? Really? Really? Danromi nodded dryly. When did you pick up Morse code? Tarko asked, staring at the small dragon. She also spoke it out loud. Lucky guess. Danromi replied, shrugging. What did you want to say? Sasuke asked impatiently. Tarko leveled him with a flat stare. When Naruto gets here. With that, she left out a piercing screech, chirp designed to be heard for miles. Naruto would hear and come. Surely enough, 2 minutes later, Naruto materialized next to Sasuke, startling the Uchiha. Where did you come from, dope? Naruto shrugged. The bushes? Tarko shook her head. One of you two will have to explain it to Sakura when she wakes up. I'm not doing it twice, alright? You know that neither of you have a chance against a Jonin, right? Yeah, I'm not that stupid, Naruto said. Sasuke didn't say anything, so Tarko took that as a sign to continue. And you know a Genin team is supposed to be a 3 Genin and a Jonin sensei, right? Ruka sensei did say that in the class. Sasuke agreed reluctantly. Tarko bobbed her head. Right. Anyway, with the tests, he was giving us 2 options. Pass all 3 of us or pass only 1 or 2. And find other people to fill in the remaining spaces. Or pass none of us, Naruto added. Or that. Tarko agreed. You can agree that Kakashi seems like he really wouldn't bother doing the extra work, right? Yeah, he barely moved while fighting me. Sasuke sounded sore, so Tarko left that alone. It is either way this goes. He won't do that second option. He's too lazy to bother applying for other Genins or to join the team, or wait an entire year for the next graduation class. I'm not waiting a year for a full Genin team, Naruto did bad. I don't want that either, Sasuke agreed. So you think you can work together? Tarko asked. I'm pretty sure that's the key to passing this test. Now one of you please wake up Sakura and explain it quickly. We're running out of time. Figure out a plan. I'm going to smash the alarm clock. You attack when you can. Naruto nodded, kneeling next to Sakura and beginning to shake her. Danromi, you stay here. Come tell me when they're ready. Tarko told the tiny dragon. Danromi nodded, flapping up to rest on Sasuke's head. Tarko slid into the clearing, looking around for Kakashi. He didn't seem to be there, so she carefully snuck closer to the alarm clock. Doing something? Kakashi asked, appearing next to the alarm clock with a puff of smoke. Tarko shrugged, dashing right for him and by extension the clock. She tried a taijutsu exchange, swinging her tail towards the clock when she could, trying to knock it off of its stump. Unfortunately, Kakashi managed to counter her at every turn. He was playing with her. That wasn't annoying at all. Danromi came flapping out a moment before Sasuke and Naruto crashed through the underground, engaging Kakashi. Tarko leapt back, snatching the alarm clock in her jaws. A terribly aimed kunai from the underground bounced off of her hide, and she sent a deadpan glare at Sakura. My alarm clock! Kakashi cried, probably more dramatically than was warranted. Release it! Give us the bells and she will. Naruto said proudly, leaping back to stand next to her. Kakashi sighed as the alarm went off. Fine, you pass. Is that what you were looking for? Yup, Naruto chirped. Sasuke just nodded happily that they all passed this test. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out.